and welcome to the Creative Frugal Wonder Woman. I am super excited to share with you this new project that I'm going to be making with a Graphic 45 craft square tag and pocket album. And I have just a ton of beautiful pictures of my newest grandson, and I took a whole bunch of all these beautiful faces, and it's going to just make for a gorgeous little fun book. Now I do have, let's see, some other pictures with my oldest granddaughter with him, and his Aunt Stacy, and his Aunt Dom, and his daddy and his sister. And this is right after he come home, and his great grandma, and his papa. So I have lots of pictures. Isn't that one adorable? So I might add, look at this, you guys. I know this is way off base, but I'm just such a proud grandma. Look at my daughter just took the neatest pictures of them at Christmas this year. So I have all these amazing pictures of Reed, and I just want to do a little fun album for him with this cute from Echo Park. It is called Little Dreamer Boy. Now this here was the 6x6 paper and some tags and washi tape, and then they have this beautiful paper. It's cardstock, so it's double-sided, so you're actually getting two different colors on each page. But this all coordinates beautifully. Look at these papers, double-sided. There's some other little tags in there. So this gorgeous little paper stack that we can use in our book. And then I went ahead and I grabbed from Echo Park their baby boy line, their enamel dots. So because these enamel dots, a lot of them are going to coordinate and go with this paper. That's going to be totally fine. But so you don't have a little dreamer boy, or maybe you have a baby boy. They do have several lines. So we have the dreamer boy, we have dreamer girl, then we have welcome baby girl. So let's get this out of the way. So if you wanted to do it for a baby girl, you could, okay. These are the frames and tags, so a little bit different than the ephemera. But again, beautiful. Actually, this I think has more paper in it. This one does. It has 36 pages, where the other one only had 24. But it is, again, double-sided. So let's open this up. I haven't even opened it yet. But as you know, I have a beautiful new granddaughter also. I have so many babies coming. We've got another grandson coming next month. So I need to get busy with all these awesome pictures that I'm going to be getting, and I already do have. So here is the baby girl a little bit. I mean, oh my gosh. Wait till you see pictures or more pictures of Sawyer. That's going to be awesome. So anyhow, it doesn't matter if you have little girl, little boy, baby girl, baby boy. This was the enamel dots for the baby boy, but I'm going to use it with the little boy. Here was the enamel dots for baby girl. They also have pet. So whatever the occasion is, whatever several pictures that you have, you can make this using this template that I'm going to give you. There's going to be step-by-step instructions on what paper to use, how the dimensions to cut it, and just a beautiful layout. So join me as I am going to put this together. Thanks. We'll see you soon. Okay, so let's get started. First, we're going to just separate each of the pieces of paper in our 6x6 paper stack. So we're just going to take them all out of the package and set them aside. Make sure there's no glue from the top. Okay, so now that we have our papers taken out of the paper stack, there are, in this particular stack, there are 12 different designs and two papers each on each design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort those and put the two matching ones together. So here we're just laying them out on our table, putting the two that match together. Okay, so now that we have the papers sorted by patterns and they're all together, I'm going to go through these and pick which ones I gravitate towards. So I tend to stay away from busy patterns, and I like the more toned down, just plain patterns. The tags, I already have a tag Amphara set, so I really like the patterns on the back of these papers, so I'm going to choose those. So I'm putting those at the top. So we're just going to pick which ones that we like, and we can always change later. Okay, so now that we have our papers all sorted and the matching ones in stacks, we're going to get out our Amphara tags or the frames, the chipboard, whatever it is that you purchased, and we're going to put them with papers that match. So I know that I want this one to be on the front cover, and so the rest I'm going to just sort them out. Remember, you're going to want two for each stack because you have two papers that match there. And we can change this up as we get to the page if we need to, but we need a general idea, and this will really help to speed the process along. And you can always, like I said, change them out if you need to later, but this is a good start to get going. Okay, so now that we've gone ahead and taken the accessories and matched them up to all the papers, we might have a few leftover smaller pieces, and that's okay. We're going to just take those and set them aside, and we can use those as fillers for when we get towards the end of the album. We might have some maybe smaller pictures that we added or some little bit smaller accessories, and we could add those in later. So, and I'll show you those how I added them in. But for now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to stack our papers. So you want to go ahead and carefully with the little chipboard pieces or the accessories tags, start stacking your papers one on top of each other. Now, if you have a busy pattern like those stars, make sure that you're putting a plain or a more subtle pattern next, or the next one, and so that you're mixing that up a little bit. You don't want to get too many busy patterns next to each other. That isn't very calming to the eye as you're going through, and that's what we really want to go for, is a nice even flow, a pleasant flow as we're going through. So for right now, we're going to just set these aside, and we're going to start on our cover. So I knew that I wanted to use the blue as a background for my cover, and then this nice big piece for the um, main page. So let's get started with that. So we know that the cover is 6 by 6, and I generally go a quarter of an inch smaller than what my area is. I do that a lot for my cards and a lot of things. So we're going to go ahead and cut this piece 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. So you get out your cutter and just cut that down. Okay, so now we are cutting our cover, the 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. And to adhere the cover paper to the chipboard, I really like to use double-sided adhesive tape. The cherry on top covers I used to always use by Score Pal, their tape, and it was wonderful. Back in the day, we used to use the red tape, which was very sticky and you couldn't tear it by hand. This Cherry on Top has their own brand, and it is so awesome. Very, very cost effective, but this stuff works even better. Now, you do want to be careful where you put your item because it is going to not go anywhere. And when I'm doing a cover, I really like to make sure I'm getting very close to the edge, as close to the edge as I can, because I don't want, this is hopefully going to be on a coffee table or viewed many, many times. So I really want to make sure that there are no little edges of my cover able to come up, and yeah, it'll just save on wear and tear. So this cherry tape is amazing, and you can actually get it for free when you order your supplies from a Cherry on Top. If you have not taken advantage of this yet, you can, with any $29 order, you just put in the promo code Cherry Tape and you will get a free roll, which is like a $4 value. So that's another savings there. It's awesome, and you'll love it. This lasts a long time. Now, I did use this throughout the book on all my pages, and I was still able to have some extra that I used for cards. So now this also takes a little bit longer, so possibly if you're using a tape runner of some sort, you could cut your time down and get this done within the 4-hour parameter. So now I like how that looks, and we're ready to go ahead and get some adhesive on. Now for the tag, I want to pop that up a little bit. So they have also Express It, ScorePal, they all have foam tape. Now good news is a Cherry on Top is coming out with their foam tape. We just don't have it available yet. But it will be, and you can bet I will be announcing when that comes in stock. So, but for this, you do have to cut it. And again, because this is going on the front cover, I like to make sure that I'm getting it as close to the edge, but it adds some dimension and character to the front of our book. And that's always a good thing. So this is going to hold really well and but give us that dimension that we need. I just measure by sight, and if it goes over the edge a little bit, you can use your scissors to cut it back. Also with the tape, if you go over a little bit, once you take off the backing of the tape, you can just flip it back over so that it's not showing. And I like to add a little piece in the middle because this again is going to be getting lots of use, and I want that to just have some support in the center also. So that looks good. We're going to go ahead and take the backing off our adhesive and apply it to the front of our cover. And again, I just eyeball it. You might want to get out a measuring tape if you are a ruler, if you really are if OCD about having it specifically, right perfectly in the middle. But I think that looks good. So now we can go ahead and get started on our inside pages. Those are a little bit smaller. And so we're going to go ahead and again cut them down 1/4 of an inch smaller than what the actual page is. Okay, so we're going to get started on the inside pages. The chipboard inside pages are 5.5 by 5.5. So we're going to go ahead and cut our pattern papers to 5.25 by 5.25. So go ahead and get your trimmer, and you're going to want to cut those down. And make sure to cut off the top edge that had the circle on it. We definitely don't want that in there. And you could have went ahead and cut all the other papers down before you stacked them and sorted them. But of course you'd want to make sure you had your cover done before that, because that was a little bit larger. Now, because I'm using the Fiskars cutter, I went ahead and I used a red pencil to mark. Because I'm going to be making so many of these cuts, I know myself I would continue to count how many little hash marks back from 6. So I wanted to skip that and save some time there. So I did the hash or the little mark with my pencil. So I know right where I need to cut all of my papers. Again, if you cut them all at once before we sorted them, that would have been a good time saver also. And you could have easily gotten this book done in the shorter 4 hours that I did. But again, we're going to use our cherry tape to secure our pattern paper onto our chipboard. Again, I'm going as close as I can to the edge, not being quite as picky as I was with the cover, because these won't be handled as much, but still you want to get fairly close. I just go around the outside edge. I don't do any tape in the middle when I'm using this cherry tape though. And I think you'll find that you'll love it as much as I do. Especially try it out. If you're placing your order, you might as well get some adhesive for free. When I'm doing cards especially, nothing I hate more than putting together a card and sending to somebody and it fall apart. And I know that with this cherry tape, it is not going to fall apart. So it's a very good investment. So now we're going to go ahead and just place our pattern paper onto the center of our chipboard page. And then we already had our accessory that we knew we wanted to go with that paper. And I'm going to go ahead and put it down in this corner. And I think I'll just put 3 pop dots. Again, I'm using little foam squares. And you can get these also from a cherry on top. I really like the black. They tend to hide a little bit more. And I'm only putting this on 3 corners, and you'll see why here in a second. Getting them as close as I can to the edge. So you can see if I put only the 3 corners of the chip or the foam dots on 3 corners, I still have that other corner that I can allows me to get my picture in behind it. So you're not going to be able to put all of the accessory pieces onto your pages at this point, but at least we can keep them together. So there's your first page. Okay, so there was your first page. The second pattern paper we're going to take and we're going to put on the bottom of our stack with its accessory and go on to the next page. Go ahead and cut this at the 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. Remember, we've got our hash mark, so it's easy to see right where we need to cut it at. We're going to save those pieces. We don't want to throw them away. We'll use those again later. Remember, we're the frugal, creative Wonder Woman. Okay, so as you're going through your book, a lot of the pages will have a pocket on one side, but then you're going to get to a spot where there's a 2-page layout. So as we pick out, you're going to take your next 2 decorative papers and accessories. And you're going to want to kind of look at them and see which accessories maybe go together, and what paper did we use before it. You know, trying to get an idea. How is that going to look? How is it going to flow? We want a nice flow. So we know that we want one of each of these papers, and we've picked out the accessories we want to use. The other two we're going to take and put on top of each other, put them at the bottom of our stack, and now we can concentrate on these two pieces. So maybe I didn't really like the colors, the way they coordinated, so kind of play with them. Look at the backs. Maybe at this point you like the back better than the front, than what you thought you would. So for this, I like this, but then the accessories for that page didn't go. It looks better. There we go. That looks. Okay, so now we've gone ahead and we've got all of the pages prepared. We've got our pattern papers all adhered to our pages. The larger accessory, we went ahead and we've added those, possibly some of the smaller accessories. Some of the pages you could add washi tape. This one, the accessory, not quite sure where it's going to go, so we just left it in the pocket so we know where it's at. This one, again, the washi tape, you can put and decorate a page, add a little bit more detail to it. There was lots of options. So now that we have our pages started, and I hope you went through and you were looking at the tags, I hope that made you stop and think about what pictures you were going to put where. So now we're going to get out our pictures and we're going to start looking through them and sorting them and finding placement in our book as to where we want them to go. Like I said, hopefully you were noticing the accessories and what they said and some of the comments, and maybe that kind of gave you an idea of what pictures you wanted to use. I know with this one, excuse our mess, I just thought that was adorable to go with the lights wrapped around my grandson. So we're going to go ahead and use these pictures for these pages. And now you want to look for a mat. Remember, we have our coordinating cardstocks that match. And so pick out which color you want to use as a mat. And typically your pictures are going to be a little bit big, so we're going to have to cut those down. So I know that cutting pictures sometimes is one of the absolute hardest thing for people to do, but it's okay. Take a look at your picture and see what size your picture needs to be and what would we have to take out. As much as I love baby feet, that's not the important focal point of this picture, so it's okay, and it still allows room for our accessory and to us to focus on his cute, adorable face. Now here's a frugal tip for you. So we're going to be using, we got 4 pieces of our 12 by 12 cardstock. And to get the most out of these pages, we want to cut them, because we have 12, if we cut them at 4 inches, that gives us 3 strips to use for matting. Whereas if we cut them, that left the picture itself at 4 inches and had to cut our paper at 4 1/4, we would lose a lot. So again, we're going to have to trim our picture down, but it's okay. You'll see when I take that 1/4 of an inch off, I'm really only taking 1 or 2 of the little lights out of the picture, and it's going to be okay. It's going to make all the difference in the world in your book. You're saving, you're getting a lot more out of your paper, and so now you can get 6 pictures at least out of one 12 by 12. So as we're going through and adding our pictures into our book, we also want to look at the pocket pages. Those look really plain, so we want to dress those up a bit. And now we want to use those strips that we cut off from the 6 by 6 pages and use those. I went ahead and I went through, for the most part, I did the matching paper that was on the opposite page, but every once in a while, you can use a coordinating one. Also use the washi tape. That's a great accent. And make sure to pick out some pretty ribbon. As you're going through your pictures to choose which ones you want on which page, I went ahead and I picked out the specific pictures first and left the ones that I had all of his faces. Used those as more fillers. So I knew that like this page, I wanted the two pictures together. It really helped to say the story because this is a storybook also. All albums are. But I couldn't help it. I wanted these cute little adorable faces, and they will be great filler pictures to put in. All the faces of Reed Mason. So now again, we're going to pick the pictures, looking at the tags, and trying to decide which pictures go best with the tags to really tell our story. This is Reed with his papa. Papa loves to read to his grandkids, and anybody that knows Papa Kenny knows that he loves adventure. So I was looking for an accessory that would really highlight his love for adventure. So this seemed to be the perfect page. Everything coordinates really well, and this also has a pocket so that I can have Papa write a letter to Reed. Okay, so now we're getting towards the end of finishing our project, and we have our tags. We want to add some ribbon. You can see on this one, I did add, this was the only accessory with a little hole for a ribbon, so I went ahead and added a ribbon to that. But now we want to add some ribbon to our tags. This really helps to finish off and add some fun fiber flair to our project. So I picked some coordinating colors. Some of them matched the cardstock that I was using as a mat, and some just was an accent color. And I cut 6 pieces of ribbon at 8 inches each. And I just folded it in half, stuck the fold into the hole, and then left out the tails. So we're not going to cut our tails quite yet. We're going to wait for that. I'm afraid that if you cut them now, you might cut them too short or they're too long and you have to recut them again. So we're going to go ahead and just add all the ribbons to our tags first. Again, you can see I had the red, the orange, so that worked beautifully to coordinate with the pictures that had that color matting. It's just another little small detail that really brings your project together. So now with the blue, a light blue and the navy, I did not have ribbon that really matched those very well, so I added some contrasting colors. Initially, my idea was to put the green on the navy and the yellow ribbon on the light blue, but somehow I got that switch, but that's okay. The thinner ribbons sometimes do not hold as well as the wider ribbons, so you may have to add an adhesive, maybe a little glue dot or a dot of liquid glue to hold it better. But make sure you pull the tails tight, and for the most part, they're going to stay really well, and you shouldn't need any adhesive on those. Okay, I'm putting the ribbon, on our last tag. And now we can put them into our book. So now as we put them in our book, then we can see, because the tag is not going to go all the way down into the pocket, so now we know about where we want to cut our ends at, the tails to our ribbons. And you can cut them at the same angle, but I would stagger the height. You can also cut opposite angles. You see this one with Aunt Stacy, I went ahead and I'm going to cut those at the opposite angles to give it a little, just a little bit more character, but again at different lengths. So you can go ahead and complete the rest of your tags, and you'll see there'll be a nice little fiber fun up at the top. All right, so we are ending the R project. We've got all of our pages together except this last page. So now you see I took some red paper and I put behind this picture. I did that page because we didn't have enough pattern paper. But if you notice, my granddaughter's pajamas had an adorable red plaid on them. So I got this plaid maker stencil from Waffle Flower, and oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. Now I went ahead and wrote my letter to read on the back page, and I'm going to use this stencil from Waffle Flower to make this paper coordinate with the picture that was across from it. So I'm using my Catherine Pooler Peppermint Scrub ink. I have all the mini pads. I love those. I love that she's coming out with all the colors in the minis. And then also the Catherine Pooler blending brush. So I'm just adding my ink and using my stencil. Now I'm not coloring onto where I wrote my letter. I'm just going around the outside edge. So we're just bringing in that color. You can make it as dark or light as you want, but make sure you get a good coverage. You just want to be careful to get your hands out of the way, and while you're using your brush to get that all covered in. And then once you think you have the coverage that you want, you can go ahead and lift and turn your plaid the opposite direction. Then again, you're going to want to secure it with your hand to hold it in place, and then add ink on the up and down stencil. Make sure to bring in a good coverage, re-inking often, making sure not to cover up your letters and your words, but just to make a nice little frame. These little brushes, this is not a foam brush, it's actually a bristle brush, and they are so amazingly soft, have a rounded ends, so it really, they just cover beautifully. I love them. I love this this stencil too. I need to practice more with stencils, but this one was so easy. It's by far been my favorite. So once we think we have good coverage on that one, we can go ahead and lift up. And I thought maybe I had room to add an extra line. If your paper was bigger and you wanted to do this again, you could. I would just line up the last completed row and then go forward from that. So you want, for this second part of the stencil, you want to line up those squares where the first plaids, where they meet. And so make sure that all of them are lined up before you start using your ink and then really give this a good color because you want to cover up, you've got that, that, I don't know what you want to call it, the plaid, that you're going to have a pattern in there from the ink from the previous stencil. So you want to give this a good cover so that you cover up those lines in there. And one thing about this one, this part did move on me and it was okay. This is much easier to line up with where I had, and I was able to continue on. Again, you can see I did not cover up where my words are. And you do have ink on your hand, so you'll want to be careful. Although the Catherine Pooler ink is really nice and dries fairly quickly. So I was surprised at how much I didn't transfer onto other parts of my project. So again, we're just making sure that this is getting a really good coverage to our ink as we complete the last page of our book. And you might have another stencil that you want to use. I just thought this was a great way to tie in the book all together. And March is National Plaid Month, so this was a great way for me to show you this plaid stencil also. Okay, so now after I completed it, I'm not typically OCD, but I did not like the way this lined up. I kept thinking I wanted to add another row, but there wasn't enough room. So rather than make it bigger, I just trimmed off 1/4 of an inch from the one side and the bottom. And this really helped to line up the pattern itself. And so it just really made all the difference. See, by taking that off there, you can see once it's completed that it just really brought the project. That was like the completing factor to take that little bit of 1/4 of an inch off. It brought the plaid back into focus in the center, and really it's just another little small detail that makes the book. Okay, so now we are at the end of our project, and here we have, look at what we have left over. Here's the 4 sheets of 12 by 12 and what's left over with these cardstocks. Lots of little pieces that you could add even underneath some of the tags if you wanted. Lots of washi tape left over for future projects. The strips, you could save those and use them in tags or future scrapbook pages. We also have lots of the acrylic dots left over. You could obviously add those anywhere. I had one accessory that I chose not to use. You could use it back. I could have written on it or stamped on it and added it to my book if I wanted. You also use a chalk ink to chalk around the edges of your pages before you put your papers down onto your book. That would be a nice accent. But you can see going through, you can add letters from loved ones into the pages or the pockets. Here I have a letter from Grandma. It's her prayers for her read. You can see how I coordinated the trim under the pocket. There's also pockets on the end, so you could add letters in there. Here we had an empty page, although I found some tags that had fallen down into the pockets, so I'll probably go back and add that to it. But And there will be pictures, and there will be pictures of each of the pages onto the Creative Club. And I am excited about next month's project already, looking into that and what we're going to create. And now that I'm getting a handle on the recording and the voiceover, I hope that each video gets better and better, and that you enjoy these projects. So you can see that we took those leftover pieces. Oh yes, this one, the ribbon. Again, that's something that I will probably go back, just a glue dot underneath the front of that, the ribbon where it comes around the front, that will hold that securely. So it will uphold in the wear and tear of being looked at and pulled out. And there's another one of those flags, some from the leftover accessories. So then you also have the end where you can put the title of your book. And there's lots of room. This really expands out. So I use lots of foam tape on the accessories, but you could have even used more. You can put more tags in there. I hope you've enjoyed this project, and I look forward to seeing you again. Bye now.